All right, everybody, we're back again for part three with Brian and Sean, another series of 1990s movies. This time we're going to do crime thrillers slash suspense mystery, and we'll follow that up with horror sci-fi. Uh, Please hit the subscribe button, like the video, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear your comments, and away we go. Brian, your top five of the 90s in the crime thriller category.
All right. This is like one of the stronger categories, I think. I had a lot to choose from, but still, the five I picked were great. I've got number five, I've got LA Confidential,
Great movie.
kind of a whodunit kind of movie, film, a little bit of film noir texture to it. You know, it's got Russell Crowe in it, and it's got Guy Pearce and Kim Basinger. These series of murders, Nighthawk murders, are kind of force these two detectives that definitely don't get along because they have definitely opposing styles to force them to kind of work together to solve the crime. It's got Kevin Spacey in it too. Very well done, you know. I mean, the costumes and everything, and the atmosphere of the movie is great. It was kind of a funny joke when I worked at the video store. I had somebody come into my video store and look at the wall and say, "How come you got so many copies of that La Confidential movie?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Right? But yeah, L.A. Confidential. I thought it was a great. I liked it. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe was kind of at the top of his game during that span, and it was good. Number four for me is Silence of the Lambs. Uh, you would think it might be a little higher, but actually, my top three I thought were stronger. But two top-notch performances by Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter and Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling. It's directed by Jonathan Demme, and it's about, of course, her antics trying to catch the infamous Buffalo Bill. And it's a great movie. But my number three movie is Reservoir Dogs. I put that here because it is kind of a crime drama, a little bit of thriller type of stuff. They're all these groups of robbers and bad guys who kind of are thrown together in order to pull a deed, and it's got Chris Penn and Steve Buscemi, Tim Roth, Harvey Keitel's in it, and they're all given pseudonym names, Mr. White, Mr. Pink, Mr. Orange, things like that. There's all sorts of nice things in there if you watch the movie really close. Like there's a bathroom scene in which there's like certain colors of soap that are on the shelf, and then there's certain colors of soap that are not on that shelf, but only because obviously that person's in a different room. So I kind of look for things like that are kind of interesting. Probably the most horrific scene, obviously, is when Mr. Brown, I think Michael
That's
Madsen's
it.
character, cuts off the ear of the police officer, and the panning away from the police officer as it's happening up to a sign in the doorway that says "Watch your head." I thought, wow, what a nice little touch to that movie. And then of course you get the Mexican standoff at the end between the bad guys, and it's a
Yeah.
great movie. It's arguably Tarantino's best. I probably still like Pulp Fiction just a little bit more, but you still got to keep it in mind. Number two for me is The Usual Suspects, all-star cast
Yep.
of villains. It's got the Baldwin brothers, Stephen, the ultra religious one now, Gabriel Byrne, Kevin Pollak, Kevin Spacey plays Verbal Kent, Ergos Kaiser Sose. And it's also got Benicio del Toro, which his character is just wonderful.
He
That
is.
scene where they're making everybody come forward to say the same thing in the lineup, and he's like, "You mean to get heat, motherfucker?" And everybody's like, "In English, please." Like, "Well, what the fuck? What the fuck?" Nobody can understand a damn word that he's saying. It's great. I love that movie. Um, but number one for me in the thriller category, I put Fargo by the Coen brothers at number one there because it was kind of a crime thing, and it's kind of let's solve this mystery through and through. It's another Coen brothers film with another strong cast, I'm a huge Francis McDormand fan. I love Peter Stormare in it, and Steve
Yeah,
Buscemi, and William H Macy's great in it. The soundtrack is even just lends itself to everything that's going on in the movie. It, everything's authentic about it that they do. I mean, the spot on Midwestern accents from from the
yeah,
Dakotas is just right on.
yeah.
Everything is just perfect about the movie. It we talked about it when I saw it actually make the top 100 AFI movies, like just a few years after it was released. When they made that actual list, I thought it wasn't high enough, because I thought that movie was going to stand the test of time over a lot of the other stuff that was much higher. So I've got Fargo at number one.
Excellent pick.
Excellent.
I have that and one of your others in different category, but your picks are very strong. I have number 5 at Basic Instinct. 1992, Paul Verhoeven. You got the Sharon Stone character is just so erotic and sexy and beguiling in that movie. Michael Douglas is her match, a little cat and mouse, trying to find out who stabbed who got murdered with an ice pick, allegedly in her bed. I mean, it's unbelievable. The sexual chemistry between the two, it's just it ignites when they're on screen together. You got the legendary interrogation scene with the legs. Again, Wayne Knight shows up in that from Seinfeld.
That's
The
right.
human character, he's in on that. And the sex scene,
Yeah.
so graphic, acrobatic, gymnastic. They're having wild sex. I just love it, and very violent. I just every time I see it, I know it's
Maybe
kind of
one of the most paused movies.
Yeah.
Do you think
no
maybe the
question.
most paused movie in American history? Yeah.
Oh, probably is, for
I
sure.
wore out my pause button. Are you kidding me? I had to get a new remote. But one of the great erotic movies, and I'm a Sharon Stone fan. It's kind of glossy and kind of pulpy in ways, but it works for me. Number 4 is Primal Fear. Richard Gere, Ed Norton, and Laura Linney. Again, this is a lawyer defending an altar boy accused of murdering an archbishop. It's more of a courtroom movie, but it's a crime thriller nonetheless, because you're not sure if he's guilty, if he's innocent. Ed Norton, a standout performance, his first role, one of the great debut performances of all time, in my opinion. Directed by really a TV director, Gregory Hoblit, who's not really known for anything except Hill Street Blues, LA Law, and NYPD Blue, but he made a good movie here. Number 3, Brian had it, LA Confidential, directed by Curtis Hanson. The best thing he's ever done, probably. 1997. You got Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce, like you said, as two cops trying to solve this thing. And the 50s, the corruption within the force. There's media involved with Danny DeVito as a cameraman, and Kevin Spacey shows up as a reporter. Kim Basinger's playing a Veronica Lake type character, and real sultry, and she sort of gets Russell Crowe off base a little bit with her stuff. James Cromwell, another good character actor's in here.
Yeah, yes.
He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
These guys do not get along. Like you said, they have two different styles of solving a crime. Eventually, they're forced to work together. And these are two Australian actors, Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe. They pull this off magnificently. Great job. Number 2, The Usual Suspects. Had to have it. It's one with that labyrinthian type plot. You don't really know what the hell's going on half the time. You got con men and criminals, and they're hired to do a job on this boat. There's narcotics. There's all kinds of backstabbing. It's kind of riveting. You got Gabriel Byrne, a really good actor that doesn't get a lot of respect anymore, but he's solid in this movie. Kevin Spacey steals the movie. Del Toro's in it. Chaz Palminteri, Pete Postlethwaite, great character actors all the way through. Kevin Pollak as well. Kaiser Sose is the key word there. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give anything away. My number 1 is 7. David Fincher's 1995 dark, grotesque at times, with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. You got the veteran cop in Freeman, the young hotshot in Pitt. They were partnering up to solve this seven deadly sin crime. Gwyneth Paltrow is Pitt's wife. She's involved. Kevin Spacey again shows up. He was on a roll in the mid to late 90s. One great performance after the next. And this is as dark and dreary as you can get. It seems like it's raining all the time. Every time they walk into a room, you don't know what you're going to expect in there with these bodies either decaying or whatever. It's just a great movie. Number one, Seven. That's it.
I'll tell you, listen, if we were going back into the 90s and, we were all hanging out and we're going into the video store, I can tell you right now, if we were saying, hey, we're going back to Rich's Place, we're going to watch a flick, we would not have a problem picking a flick. I'll tell you this right now, because I've got 4 of the 5 again between the two of you guys. So
I know we hit on the big ones, let's face it.
Yeah.
Mystery, thriller, crime, however you wanted to describe this category. I start off with number 5 at Primal Fear with Ed Norton and Richard Gere. I start off with yeah, you're right. It's a fantastic debut for Ed Norton as well in this one. So it's I think it's a performance that doesn't get talked about almost enough. It's so well done, actually, especially for a newcomer coming into the whole scene kind of thing, and this is your first kick at it. Oh man, it's pretty impressive.
He fools everybody, really. I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but all the evidence is piled up against him, and yet you can't believe this kid's doing it. And at times it doesn't seem like he is. Laura Linney's on the opposite end.
It's a back and forth. It's
going back and forth. Great stuff.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Frances McDormand's in this movie too. Is she not, as a supporting character?
Supporting, yes, she is.
She's a shrink or something. I think she's in it.
Yes, she is. She's the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor.
My number 4 is going to be with Harrison Ford, who I obviously have an affinity for. I didn't know I'd liked Harrison this much, but Presumed Innocent is my number 4.
That's a great pick.
That's which is
that's real good.
A lawyer with the girl who's murdered, and how'd this happen? And meanwhile, she's still sleeping with basically the head dude of the firm and everything else. So this it's a whirlwind from there on how he gets defended, that his fingerprints, and it goes from there that how is he involved with her. And, it's
great actors too. Brian Dennehy and
Dennehy's in it. Yep.
And Raul Julia. They're great cast.
Yes, very good. And that's the defending attorney for him. So
excellent.
So my number 4 is Presumed Innocent, because I think that's just a great little thriller, crime, mystery kind of flick. I think it's a really good one.
It is.
Then we're going to hit on 3 in a row here where we've heard them recently. So my number 3 is Silence of the Lambs with, I think that was your pick, Brian, I think. Not much more you can say about it. I love my Manhunter, and here comes Lecter again. So, but it's really well done. I mean, I can't say that it's a fantastic movie. It swept the 4 majors, and not many have done that at the Oscars. So only I think 2 or 3 have done it.
Yeah.
Maybe One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, this one, maybe one other one, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that comes at number 3 for me. My number 2 goes back to everybody's number 2. It's The Usual Suspects. So it's you guys have said it all on this one, I think, already at this stage. So it's you're right. It's a great cast, and Benicio to walking up doing doing his thing there when all right, give me all the money, right? Whatever. Just give me the money, right? Baldwin freaking out when he does his.
He's great.
It's classic.
Exactly. It's great.
Fantastic.
This is
so that's my number 2 as usual. So my number 1 is Rich's number 1, which is 7. So
good.
I think that's for a mystery thriller kind of it really keeps you guessing in that one, man. It's really well done. Richard does a great job with it. The acting's great. Freeman's great. Pitt is very good in that flick.
He is.
Spacey's very good in that flick. So you're right. Somebody mentioned there Spacey's on a run, and Spacey is on a run at this time. Not to talk about anything in the future, but for acting and everything else that's going on in movies, this guy was at the top at the time, man. So
great.
Yep. My number 1 is 7.
I like it. We really had a lot of same films there, and I forgot Silence of the Lambs. I didn't have in this category, but I have it later on somewhere else. So I think Brian and I went 5 for 5, just 3 in this category and 2 in another. Sean and I each had the same number 1. So excellent job.
I think we might have been 3 for 5 there too, Rich.
Yeah, I think we were. I
Yep.
think we were. All right, cool. Over to horror slash sci-fi. This ought to be a dandy. Go
I
ahead.
wonder if this changes. Do you think this changes? Are we gonna have like, I mean,
I have one that was already mentioned in another category, but I don't know what else.
I've
we
got
have.
one that was already mentioned in another category here. So
I actually have 2. Just looking at my notes.
So
all right, Brian, you're going to lead off.
Okay, at number 5, I've got a James Cameron pick. I've got T2 Terminator 2.
Yep.
I thought that for special effects, it seemed to be way superior than the first one and way ahead of its time. The story is excellent. It's got, Edward Furlong and Linda Hamilton, and introduction of the first time I remember anyway seeing Robert Patrick, as playing the new Terminator, and Arnold gets to actually play the good guy in this one. But it's the story of the Terminator, but in this one's Arnold is protecting the young boy from being killed by the future robots. Number 4 for me is a Terry Gilliam film, 12 Monkeys.
fantastic.
Nice.
Again, another time travel one, and of course it has some plot holes. Obviously, it always does. But it's got Bruce Willis. It's got Brad Pitt's performance as Jeffrey Goins is just crazy. He plays in the guy in the insane asylum, and he's like monkey.
He's great in this.
He's just great in that. I mean, he got nominated for best supporting actor for that as well.
Yeah.
But it covers the loop. There's types of time travel that they kind of talk about, and this is kind of the loop version of time travel, and that we already what he's dreaming about is his future and also his past all at the same time, and every action that is occurring in the film has already occurred, and we're not privy to it until the very end of the film. And of course, because it's Terry Gilliam, it's Monty Python director. Typically, he still has a very unique style. Everything's very quirky and odd.
Yeah.
Even the advanced machinery just seems to work very oddly and interesting. Number 3 for me is 7. I put 7 over here in the horror categories. I mean, you guys pretty much touched upon everything that I would normally touch upon on the movie. It's a great cast. David Fincher does a great job of setting moods and and making people feel like they're actually in the film. Number 2 for me is definitely a sci-fi horror. It's by Paul W.S. Anderson. It's called Event Horizon. It's about a spaceship that was supposed to have faster than light travel by going through a wormhole and appearing on another side of the galaxy. But when they did the test run, the ship just completely disappeared. And then like 43 years later, of course, it shows up again. And when they send a rescue ship, they find out that it didn't actually go to another part of the galaxy. It actually went to hell. And of course, then people who aboard this ship ends up manifesting all their worst possible fears and evil things that they had ever done in their lives end up manifesting on the ship. I think it's very scary in parts. It's got a great cast. It's got Lawrence Fishburne, Jason Isaacs, Sam Neill, Jolie Richardson. It's got a pretty strong cast on top of that. I thought it was a very original sci-fi horror, so that was my number 2. My number 1 though was the one that I talked about in our last set of videos, which I was very upset that it wasn't from the 80s because it made my life easier. It's Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, nice.
It's an Adrian Lyne film. I love this movie. It's got Tim Robbins, the Pina girl, and it's got Danny Aiello, who plays like this angelic kind of chiropractor. Who kind of counsels him whenever he seems to have episodes or he's in severe pain. Does a fantastic job in that. it's now considered a really cult classic, and it deals with a lot of issues. I mean, other than its horrific undertones of the horror movie, it kind of deals with post-traumatic stress disorder that veterans feel in general. And I think it also kind of speaks to the fact that about purgatory and what kind of demons we carry around with us on a daily basis. It kind of creates our own hell. And then it wasn't until the very end of the film that you realized that Tim Robbins' character was dead all along.
I know
that we were just
the ending got me.
Just him hanging. It was kind of him just hanging on.
Yep.
For whatever reason, for whatever guilt he ever felt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. All right, very good. My number 5 is Contact, sci-fi movie, 1997, directed by Robert Zemeckis, Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey. This is it's kind of a slow mover, but it's encountering alien intelligence. I was looking at Roger Ebert's review of it back in 97, and I couldn't sum it up any better. He said, it meets at the intersection of science, politics, and faith. And that's really what the movie's about. So I'll leave it at that. It is bang on. Number 4, I didn't really want to put this in, but I ran out of sci-fi movies, and it is Interview with a Vampire, 1994, directed by Neil Jordan. It's got the all-star cast of Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Christian Slater, Antonio Banderas, and a very young Kirsten Dunst as a little vampire girl. It's okay. It's very stylish. It's adapted from the Anne Rice bestseller, and I guess it works. I liked it the second time I saw it better, but it's not a favorite of mine, but I needed to fill out 5 slots. Number 3 in the sci-fi category here, I put Jurassic Park. We mentioned that earlier as an action-adventure film. I have it as a great popcorn movie, too, directed by Spielberg with Sam Neill and Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and a cast of thousands. Thrills galore. That when those dinosaurs are loose chasing people all over the amusement park, and then in the room there in the kitchen, I guess, with the metal cabinets and stuff. The kids are hiding, and it takes your breath away, because realistically, they're smelling them. They're looking like they're going to get them, and somehow it's escapist fun entertainment. Love it. And the dinosaurs look really real back then too. I mean, I don't know how they did it. CGI, obviously, and a great premise from the Creighton novel. Number 2 is a little sleeper of a movie, but it fits the horror category for me, and that's The Sixth Sense, 1999. M. Night Shyamalan's debut, I guess. I See Dead People is the tagline. Bruce Willis, really good role for him. Haley Joel Osment as the little kid, fantastic. Toni Collette as the mom. A real intelligent screenplay, a twist. It's kind of creepy. Some of the things that are involved with the little girl whose mother's poisoning her, and the kid's under the tent, and it's got a hole in his head or something. And I like it too, being from Philadelphia. It's shot in Philly. You see a lot of the old historic Philadelphia, Alfred's Alley and the Liberty Bell, and some of this stuff downtown.
Donnie Wahlberg is in that at the beginning of the film, right? Donnie
Wahlberg is in the beginning. He was a patient of Bruce Willis. Bruce is a shrink. And I think it's a real effective little film. My number 1 is, again, previously mentioned in the last category, I think, Silence of the Lambs. I have this as a horror movie. Even though it could be a thriller, a crime thriller. Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, fantastic. The close-ups of them when they're trying to outduel each other and get information, the quid pro quo, as it's called. Directed by Jonathan Demme, a Best Picture winner, like you mentioned, took the big 4. I put it in here for the reason it's Hannibal the Cannibal. I mean, if it's not a horror movie, I don't know what it is. And, there's just fantastic. It shows you a lot of the FBI scenes, too, of them training in the beginning. And Jodie Foster is this young upstart, and she's pegged to get inside the mind of Anthony Hopkins' character and get information, match wits, really solid. And you got who's the actor?
Scott Glenn.
Scott Glenn's in it. He's her boss, but Ted Levine as the madman at the end.
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill. He's pure
Buffalo
evil.
Bill.
I mean, what he does to that girl
Yeah.
in the dungeon, and it's just a great movie. I watch it repeatedly. I've seen it a lot of times. So that is my number.
It rubs
one.
a lotion on its skin.
Exactly. What do you got for us, Sean?
Well, we'll give it a go here. There is some crossover here on a couple, but when I get down to it, I guess I separated them out too. So
we all did.
Sci-Fi horror. So my number 5 is exactly what it says. It's a sci-fi horror, and Brian had this one mentioned earlier as his number 2, I believe, with Event Horizon as well. I almost had it as the my take on it, Brian. The quick summary of Hellraiser in space, or something to that effect. It's really it's a horror movie in space. Yeah, it's exactly that. And you're right. The cast is good. Sam's great. Lawrence is great in that. As the two mains really in the flick, and it's it really does incorporate both sci-fi and horror at the same time, and it's a real well done little flick that he did at the time, and he was brought on to do that flick to fill a gap from Cameron, actually, who was busy with some other thing that he was working on, but that he couldn't do that in time, so that's how that actually got squeezed into actually production, let alone actually the studio picked it up and made it. So thank God for that, because I really like that. It's a slick little flick, man. I like that one a lot. My number 4 goes right to the sci-fi, and could have gone under action possibly or anything along those lines, but I'm going Total Recall. As I like Schwartz, Schwartz makes an appearance a couple of times actually, so it's but Total Recall is to me, it's more than just a cult classic. I think it's some things I just wish they never would have done. I wish they never done a reboot of RoboCop if I was to go back in the 80s, and they came back with that other reboot of Robo, and I wish they never would have. Stay away from Total Recall too, man. These are movies of my generation.
You got to give the people some air.
Yeah.
Isn't my girl Sharon Stone's in that too, right?
Sorry, Rich?
Sharon Stone is his girlfriend.
Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
It's it's a great sci-fi in space kind of flick, and is it a dream? Is it real? All these other different things, and it's really well done. Really well done. I Recall's a classic in my opinion. So my number 3 will come in with the horror side of things, and I've gone to a horror that actually kind of switched up the way horrors were actually shown to us at the time. So I went and Scream, because it was a different real kind of horror for when it came out. It wasn't nothing was written like this from Kevin Williamson at the time and stuff like this. He goes on and does, I know what you did last summer, and I know what you did 10 summers ago, and all these other things, which goes away. But Scream as an original, and the Scream series actually is not a bad little horror series to watch. It's it's got a campiness about it. It's gory. It's kind of funny. There's humor, and it's they
kind of brought back the whole celebrity kill thing. Like, celebrities wanted to be in those movies to be the first person killed in the movie. It became fashionable.
Here comes Drew, right?
Drew Barrymore, baby.
Yeah, here comes Drew. I want to be killed.
From one of Brian's favorite movies, E.T., to Scream, Drew Barrymore just covered the whole gamut, man. This is fantastic.
What range?
So Scream comes in as my number 3 for the horror flick. So number 2 goes back to the sci-fi things, and I think Brian, you might have had this one on your list. It's T2, Terminator 2. Yeah, I mean, this was the next level stuff again. Here you go with the just the way the CGI and everything that's shown to you. Like we said, Patrick, it was who was the Terminator there? Patrick.
Robert Patrick.
Yep. You said that you never saw him. You think this was the first time you saw him in a movie, but if you look really hard in Die Hard 2, he's one of the guys blown away, shooting away at Bruce in the white suits in the airport. So,
right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. All right.
Makes sense.
So that's kind of where I remember him from. But T2 stands out as a sci-fi flick from the 90s that was over the top. Great story. There you are, time traveling. Schwartz is on the other side, and the story really picked up nicely from where one ended. So it was actually a really good sequel to one, which was groundbreaking in the 84 to this. It was a nice move into that side, and it was really well done. My number one goes to The Matrix. So I think it's the sci-fi movie of the 90s. I know it's polarizing in some senses too, because a lot of people do not like the movie, or take it for what it is. It's not meant for Keanu to win any Oscars, and it's not meant for Lawrence to win any Oscars or anything along those lines. But it's more than a popcorn flick too. It's really well done. It's shown really well. It's filmed really neat by the Wachowski brothers at the time. That this green, pale look throughout the whole movie, almost in one sense. The way it's filmed, incredible. When you think about it, the scenes are done really well. The action sequences are top notch. So it's for a sci-fi flick, for a different kind of story, especially at the time. The Matrix comes in as my number one of the 90s.
Very good. I'll be talking about that.
I know you will, buddy. I know
I'll be talking about the Matrix probably in the next category. There's a tease.
I was waiting for Rich's head to explode.
I was thinking I was going to do it right there.
I
hope I defended it good enough before we get there. I don't know.
Maybe I'm a little slow, but it wasn't my bag. Let's put it that way. I didn't.
It's a polarizing movie, or can be a polarizing movie. Either some people get it, like it, don't like it. That's like with every movie we've talked about so far. I'm sure in some sense.
Let me ask you this: did you like the sequels to The Matrix? Did you watch those?
Not nearly as much as one.
Okay.
2 and 3 were okay. I guess I'll watch them, but
I quit after one.
One is the. I mean, it's the opening of the story to tell you the story of the Matrix and stuff. But I mean, it's like I said, that part is really well done. Number 2 and 3, kind of go off the rails a little for my liking. Okay. I don't hate them, but they're not in my top 50 or 100 or something like that.
Right.
So, or 1,000. I don't know what the number's going to be.
The threads start to unravel in the next 2.
Yeah.
The threads that bind, it just starts to unravel.
And to me, it was a pretty high bar.
It was a
pretty high bar. Number 1 to come into number 2 to kind of come close. No, it's not close. Not really.
No.
All right, cool. Let's wrap up this one. We're going to be back with video number 4, which will be our overrated and sleeper videos, the ones that are maybe a little too highly talked about and some that are flying under the radar. So we'll take a look at those in our next segment. Brian cannot wait to throw the shade, let me tell you. I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, please subscribe, hit the like button, leave the comments. We need feedback. We want to hear what you guys think out there of our list so far, and if you have stuff that we've overlooked or favorites of yours, please feel free to leave them, and we'll let you know what we think. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.